to see though. I'm getting a little too excited, Fortnite fam. I want to see more of this. But yeah, I think we're getting ready. Battle bus, the players are boarding. Will be there in just a moment. I think we have a package here in just a moment. But what do you think, man? So, do you think where is Aqua? Did we see him? Is he on page one?
They're not in this heat. They're not in this
okay, I'm sorry.
It's different heats. It's okay.
Different heat.
This is just heat one. So
which brings
again,
me to my
just to
next
remind
point.
people, is a little too excited here. There are 4 heats coming through in Europe. 8 teams will be advancing and go. There are repeated trios who have shown they're consistently stronger and that much better than the rest. It's not like we're basing this off of like who our favorite players are, right? It's going and looking at and breaking it down. But for now, we're going to throw to a 10-minute break while we sort some stuff out on our end. We'll go talk to the bus driver, try and get that going. You guys take your bio breaks, whatever you need. We'll be right back.
Hello family of Fortnite, BallTW here, and throughout the Fortnite Champion Series, we're going to be trying to get more acquainted with the world of competitive Fortnite. Today, we're going to be discussing the 3 different stages of a competitive Fortnite game. The early game, the mid game, and the late game. And what different players have as their goals during these stages in order to achieve the ultimate goal, the Victory Royale. Let's start with the early game. Also called the looting phase, this is where all players are attempting to secure their chosen landing spot and maximize their loot potential. In competitive Fortnite, every game matters, so players try to strike a balance between high loot opportunity and safety so as to not waste a game by being eliminated early. Do you drop at a high loot POI like Retail Row or Paradise Palms? Or land at a safer POI on the edge of the map, where less players drop less loot. Regardless, the goal is common. You take a passive approach by looting safely on the side of the map, or an aggressive and risky approach by letting others loot for you and finding early elimination. Now that we know what the early game is, what should we be looking out for during this stage? First things first, being contested. The first realization players make when landing is whether you're being contested or not, to prepare for the upcoming possible fight. Trios want to try to force your opponent into the more disadvantageous position cut off from loot potential. Either they have to make a desperation push, or they're stuck with less loot where you can easily clean up. That's just the beginning, as even though it starts off high intensity with all the different POIs being contested, it quickly slows down as the rotations begin towards first zone. Looting doesn't end here, and most competitive players will have a loot path which optimizes their possibility for finding the crucial mobility and weapon upgrades. Thanks to the new battle map feature in the replay mode, we can study these loot paths and rotations quite easily these days. So go check that out in any replay from the Fortnite Champion Series by going into the Compete tab and finding your favorite player. It will vary from game to game, but generally, we move into the mid-game around the middle to end of second zone. The mid-game is the calm before the storm. Before the storm circle gets too small where it forces the engagements. Most players' goals aren't positional, but in some cases, depending on how the early game went, you again have to strike a balance, this time between looting and farming, or going for the best position. Looting could include playing extremely aggressive to earn yourself other players' loot. In trios, it's much harder to play that aggressive playstyle, since fights take longer and cost more. You want to be efficient with any rotations or fights you have to take. You don't want to spend your precious mobility, valuable resources, or health. This is why you'll see a lot of the top players look directly for center zone in the mid-game. When you're in the center zone, you end up giving yourself the most chance of being in the next storm circle when it gets revealed. You'll then have to go less distance and thus spend less materials. Finally, the end game. The most exciting, hectic, thrilling, and difficult part of competitive Fortnite. Experiencing an endgame can be confusing and hard to process, but it will also be one of the most rewarding and fun times to play and watch. This is when you take all the advantages you built in the early game and the mid game and use them to push yourself to a victory royale, and also find as many eliminations as possible. In the current Fortnite Champion Series format, every elimination matters, just like it did in the World Cup. From 6th zone onwards, where the calm from the mid-game explodes into a cacophony of tunneling, mobility usage, and shots being fired, you'll see teams go for the ever-so-advantageous high ground, where they can tunnel very cheaply and have the most opportunity on the rest of the server for elimination, as they have the top-down view. You'll also see teams call out the need to find a good layer, which is away from other players, both above, below, and horizontally. You'll see teams desperate for the extra materials to last them through to the full zone closure, going for impact eliminations, where they can top off on resources and power weapons. So, whether you're watching or you're joining us on the field, take stock in the stage of the game. The early game, when you're trying to get the best possible loot while it's still available. The mid game, where you're balancing positioning while maintaining what you built during the early game. And finally, the end game. You spend all the advantages you set yourself up with to earn the victory royale. Use this to form your game plan in order to earn as many series points weekend after weekend. And maybe next time, we'll be watching and highlighting your top plays. This was Ball TW, and I'll see you in game.
Champion.
Hey guys, Shadow Wager here, bringing you a breakdown on one of the most dynamic, flexible, and clutch items every trio is utilizing in the Fortnite Champion Series, the Shockwave Grenade. We're going to be taking a look at some of the basics on how it's used and misused at crucial moments in the game, and how to adapt and play against them towards the end game. To get started, let's get a refresher on what shockwaves are and some of the basics of using them. Shockwave grenades are a utility item that drop in stacks of 2, with a maximum stack size of 6. When thrown, the shockwave launches anyone within its tile-and-a-half radius far distances, destroying builds in the process, with the added protection from fall damage for the players who use them. The most effective way to gain maximum distance is to time your jump well with a shockwave right below you, angling yourself above it for higher vertical movement, or towards the side of it in midair for horizontal coverage. If you do use a shockwave to rotate through builds late game, you will only be able to go through about 5 layers of wood, brick, or metal before you come to a stop. When going for height, if you don't get stopped by any opposing player's builds at all, you can reach upwards of 7.5 tiles in height, giving anyone above you a surprise and changing both yours and your enemy's game plan in a split second. Although really easy to understand and use individually, once entering the atmosphere of trios and teamwork, the use of shockwaves enters a whole new dimension. There are deciding factors in win conditions if used properly, allowing for easy positioning and rotations. Using them and sticking together after the landing is efficient and gets your whole trio online, ready to fire at a faster rate compared to the rest of the competition. Saving these grenades for later use brings an element of surprise as well, and a level of shock to the whole server. Looking at 8th and 9th zones with densely packed endgames, vertical shockwaves make high ground and mid ground layers crumble, and give patient trios and surviving solos a way to counter long tarps and bases towering above them. Facing off against 3 players usually proves fatal though, as you are vulnerable throughout your whole flight and easily targeted by the trio you're trying to attack. Turbo building walls on the way up from your shockwave can work against this though, but gives your newfound height or foundation easily shot out and focused from below. Panicking with shockwaves in your own box and misusing them is always an irreversible mistake during the game, giving you poor positioning split away from your trio, costing you building resources, or ultimately you and your teammates their entire health and shield pool if used at the absolute incorrect moment. To counteract the chaos from shockwaves, new and clean strategies are put in place to negate the negative and potential mishaps in certain situations. When going for height, separately boxing up before using the shockwaves and going for height then allows you to have power in numbers as 3 players get a vertical rotation together, overwhelming the competition. Discovering new positioning and shockwave throwing angles and targets within your box might keep your trio and teammates closer together when using one shockwave to rotate, saving crucial mats and attracting less attention during your mid-game rotations. You also save your total shockwave count by doing this, allowing for more opportunities to challenge high ground, grief low ground in the endgame, or rotate mid-game. Countermeasures can be taken too, such as keeping a teammate higher than normal, multiple layers above you, as in the event of a vertical shockwave, you still have someone up high who can rain down and support your trio on a retake. Keeping your own shockwaves handy is a way to counter anyone taking both trios play mind games and the circle gets smaller, and smaller, the more likely a chance there is for a messy, repeat shockwave circus happening all at the same time. Player after player gets sent flying in the sky, with teammates all getting sent around in and out of the storm, off their tarp layers, and splits costing your trio more mats and resources than normal. Identifying these mistakes, staying in your lane, and watching teams move is a good way to anticipate and prevent disaster from striking before it happens. Although an item overlooked as simple mobility at first, the potential and efficiency of using shockwave grenades as a trio separates the good players from the great. And practicing, reviewing, and watching how plays are set up before they happen is a good way to keep in the loop, improve on mistakes, and get better retakes on height when using one of the most versatile items in the game. Keep your team's position in mind while breaking, jumping, and blasting into the air until you get it just right, and who knows, maybe you can have that top play or amazing clutch that saves your team while competing in the FNCS.
Como Michael del Mod, soy de Mod. Canada. Tranquilo. لما كنا بنشيدوها أنا بقى ملي
What's up, Fortnite fam? So first of all, sorry about that. We had a little bit of issues on our side with the European matches flushing, but there's been a ton of Fortnite action going on this morning anyway, with Middle East wrapping up their first and second heat. So we have the final results, and we're gonna hop into some of the action. And also, I just want to say, my predictions for Middle East are looking pretty good. I know Z kind of hinted at it, but you can check out on the FN computer, some of our prediction and our preview piece we were able to go through, and we talked about what some of our predictions, particularly in the Middle East and European region, are. So make sure you get up to date on that, get what our thoughts and opinions are. But we're going to be hopping into Heat 2, Match 1 of the Middle East region in just a second here. And honestly, I'm excited. It's going to be the first time seeing Middle East in outside of the open tournament format and seeing the top teams really go at it. And honestly, looking at the heats afterward, there are a lot of big changes now up on the board here. You can see there were some differences in the predictions. One, I will say, I was the one who predicted Flame, Prime, and Hunter up there. So swap Zeke and I's names, but otherwise, Klops, Hero Kappa, and Fiesel were the favorites going through. They performed pretty well. You will be seeing them in the Middle East. Able to have a positive day in their heat and advance through. So predictions so far are holding steady, and it's going to be exciting once we get in. There is a different style of play, different types of gameplay from all over the regions, but enough from me. I've talked enough. Let's throw it on over to Lupo and Monster as they take you into Middle East Heat 2.
Sundown, thank you very much. Just a quick note to those at home. Occasionally we run into issues on the cast. Do your best to not get too worked up about it. You know, there's a lot of things at play here, so
you have to imagine a 10-minute break is an insanely short amount of time to recover and get back into the games. As you can see here on your screen, Heat 2 Game 1 of the Middle East region just starting off. Tilted Town, a number of teams dropping down the bottom. Down here, pressure in the bottom, and the pump shotgun. An early blue pump shotgun in Tilted Down, as you can see, is honestly one of the most powerful weapons you can get. It just hits so hard for so many up-close fights, too.
Such a clean shot. And that's one of the perks of landing in Tilted Town. You know you're going to get a boost. You know you're leaving with pump, you're leaving with shockwaves, you're guaranteed heals. Like, guaranteed minimal. Not only that, you're probably going to get yourself some launch pads as well. So this is the place to be, especially if you want to guarantee your you stick around just to get back to the lobby. Not much you can do there. You catch one pick, maybe you get a point for your leaderboard, basically, but
even then, you have to hope it's like a solo, otherwise, you know, they're just going to get picked back up almost immediately. It's a tough spot to be in. But yeah, you're saying early game in Tilted,
has such a refined loophole, the trade-off of not being able to build, or in some people's mindsets not having to build, because you know that you can just focus on gun skill and accuracy, is such a big factor in building up an early loot. Just the early loot game is so, it's huge here. Like I said, it feels like crazy. Everybody's going to come out stacked with a good set of materials, in fact, just because you can pick up all that stuff out of the chest and off of every elimination. If you do get challenged here, it's arguably one of the better spots to drop right now.
Yeah, I was just going to say, imagine a game where one of these guys bring that double barrel out of Tilted Town, because there are some rules in play where the...
Yeah, סבבה. אני רושם, אני פה, שנייה אחרי אני רושם, כותרת אחרת. קלט אליי אחי? looking down. כנס אליי. הלו. הלו.
הלו. מיכאל. לא, איך קוראים לזה? מיכאל. לא. למה אתה... קודם כל רוצה להגיד לך, אבל השארת אותו לוגו, ואותו לוגו וזה נכון רצח.
מה?
השארת אותו לוגו. מיכאל פרו, ככה קראת ללוגו שלו.
אין לי לוגו עכשיו.
לא, אתה מבקש ממישהו שיעצב לך?
כן.
מה?
אין אף אחד.
אף אחד לא רוצה לעצב לך משהו?
לא מוצא.
מה לא רוצה?
לא מוצא, אמרתי, לא מוצא.
ואם אני אערוך לך?
אז תביא.
איזה תביא? יש לך דיסקורד?
כן.
אתה רוצה גם באנר?
אני לא יכול לעשות אבל מהדיסקורד.
בסדר, אני שואל, אתה רוצה גם באנר?
אני לא יודע איך לעשות באנר. לא לקח להרים אותו.
אני רוצה שאני אעצב לך באנר ולא בוא.
אני לא יודע איך לשים את הבאנר, אמרתי.
אני אעזור לך, לא יכולים לשים באנר ולא.
לא, כאילו, לא הבנת אותי. מהדיסקורד זה לא ייתן לי מהמחשב. איך תעשית מהדיסקורד? מהטלפון?
אני הצבתי לעצמי, זה לא קשור. אני הצבתי לעצמי, זה לא... אני לא פשוט עשיתי ו... עזוב, זה מסובך או מה שעשיתי, אתה לא תבין. כי זה לעלות קבצים, ואז זה לעלות את זה. בקיצר, אתה רוצה שאני אנסה לעצב לך באנר ולוגו?
איך קוראים לאפליקציה? אני אעשה, נו. יש לי לוגים. לא, פתאום נהיה לי לוגים שאני בלייב, לאן? לאן? יש לי קצת לגים, אני מהפינג.
תעלה הפינג, אני 300 פינג.
למה? לא, אני מתנהל, זה בגלל שיש לי להגיד. וואי, נו אין איזה מדר.
נותן מדרים כולם. תשארי אותו.
וואט דה פאק? איזה חראים. מה?
לא סיפורים שאני הולך אולי, זה מסכים.
למה?
באתי להגיד לך שלום, כי לא הייתה הרבה זמן, ולא הייתי הרבה זמן בלהגיד שלך.
אם תלך נמשיך לראות את הטורניר, אתה יודע.
כן, אני הולך לך את סתם.
אתה תלך?
איכס, מה לא קורה בנו לזה?
טוב, אכן, מראה את הטורניר.
טוב, יאללה ביי נחת.
Actually isn't a third party. They're just pressuring what explodes here, so they want to back up. They want to reset a little bit here.
I don't blame them. You basically started that fight not as a full trio. Sammy was still outside in the storm, and so rotating back away and saying, nah, this is not the fight to take. We're not exactly in the best spot. Plus, if you think about it, they did force that team, the team that applied pressure from inside the safe zone, to burn through some traps. There's some zap traps in the wall, so you've gotten rid of those, cleared those out of the inventory, which is great for later in the game. Ultimately, kind of a win-win. Set of eliminations here.
This is a nice little look right here. You can see those teams that are on the west and north side of the map forced to fight their way down now. Quite a rotation here as the zone seems to be pushing all the way south. So the later you move, the more congested this rotation will be, the harder it will be for you later in the games. You really want to get down here early, especially when a zone favors one side pretty heavily. See competitive players try to rotate nice and early.
I'm looking for Nazir to hit a snipe shot here. He keeps pulling that heavy sniper out and taking a look. Hasn't gone for it yet. I would say position-wise, not the best call. You draw a lot of attention to yourself as you are further outside towards the edge of what is currently safe. So people are probably going to look back and try and stormhold you. But could you imagine Nazir hitting just a crazy snipe right there on the rotation in? They suddenly have advantage of trio versus only 2 left up. They could push through, pick up 3 elims, all the materials, and make their way in the safe zone.
And this is actually very interesting right here. FHD actually opened this battle up with a heavy snipe. They catch the knock, but they don't even collapse to kind of seal the deal. They say, you know what, instead, we're going to focus more on the zone here. They're going to get ahead. So they use that little bit of distraction, downtime, and chaos to get ahead of the zone here. It's probably still going to convert if they can get to the zone first and then turn the battle back around.
Depends on how fast the storm is moving on this edge. They are closer to the short side, so it's moving slower. But yeah, you have a chance maybe for a pickup there, but I think, like you're saying, in that moment they say, yeah, we got the knock, we could push for it, but placement at this point probably more important. You're looking at 26 trios remaining. You don't get the placement points until top 15, and even then, it's only 3. So right now, pushing into the storm, getting to safe, very, very important. You want to try and make it to that top 15 as early as possible. Get to a safe spot so you can sit and wait.
You saw a little bit of a storm surge warning there as we're approaching zone 3. You have to be cautious when there's over 70 players to the zone 3 ratio. Storm surge will start to tick, so there's only one trio probably affected right now. This trio here is completely safe, 105 damage above. But anything can happen. They can get pushed by the wrong ones. The other team can jump into a fight. So
at this point, only one player needs to go down too, and we might actually find it. There it is. What a snipe! FHD looking back to the East over there, quick little flick, a 157 body shot. They're going to try and apply pressure. The teammate up top trying to secure, maybe get a chance for revive. Stinks.
They actually used a lot of resource just to try and keep that player safe right there. He chucked back the zap trap and the stink, so using all, if not most, of their throwables right there just to hold the power squad down here in the factory area. And this is the second time now they've caught enough, and they haven't quite